Warning! The following video may contain harsh language, crude humor, and may offend unintentionally, and is an affiliate of Scythering Productions. The opinions and comments expressed do not reflect those of the Scythering team. All credit and criticism shall be warranted to TWS Productions. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone, and wrestling fans alike. Welcome to That Wrestling Show. It's been a while since I've been around, mainly because there's been so much stuff going on, but I'm back in full form with tons of news, many stuff from 3 weeks ago, some stuff from 2 weeks ago, and a lot of stuff from this week. So why don't we get into the news of the week? Alundra Blaze, believe it or not, has been firing Twitter back and forth, actually claiming that she wants to fight Beth Phoenix for the real women's title. Unfortunately, she also mentions the fact that she still has the title belt that she dropped inside of a wastebasket and claims that she can kick Beth Phoenix's ass. Okay, Alundra Blaze, Medusa, whatever you want to call yourself. First you go to WCW and you take the title belt and you throw it in a waste receptacle. You claim that you still have that title and you want to fight Beth Phoenix. Well, let me just point one thing out. You were never much of a hot commodity in WWE. You were never much of a sensation in WWE. Maybe if your last name was Dumas or Stratus or something of that nature, you'd be somewhat relevant, but no, I don't think Beth Phoenix is going to take up on that challenge. And Alundra Blaze, no, you can go away. Now, this has actually been confirmed a couple weeks ago when Chris Hero has, yes, signed with WWE. And many people are wondering, is he going to have a tag team partner? They're going to keep the tag team together? They're going to separate him? Well, it's a little bit more than that. They're going to keep him completely separated from any kind of tag team, giving him a singles push, and his new name, believe it or not, as reports say, is Cassius Ohno. There are some people that are not at all too happy with his name change, but then again, if you have Seth Rollins in there, you knew WWE was going to change his name so he could market it. So Chris Hero has officially been signed to WWE, and his name is now Cassius Ohno. I know there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm going to behave for this episode. There have been plans, yes, there have been plans to actually have Drew McIntyre be remodeled and repackaged as a Hollywood playboy. Yes, this is something that they've been bouncing around back and forth, and it seems that WWE has almost forgotten the fact that he's on a losing job angle. He's only, 0 for 7 now since going back to SmackDown. It's time for them to either do something with Drew McIntyre or just completely ignore everything altogether. They're giving him kind of an MVP push where when he finally wins he's going to be massively over, but unfortunately it didn't really happen very well for MVP, did it? A Hollywood playboy?
Look at my sexy body!
I didn't see a Scotsman being a Hollywood playboy. I don't really think that's going to work. Natalya tells all fans on Twitter that, you know what, the flatulence angle that everyone is up in roars about, you really shouldn't mind it, and everyone needs to settle their proverbial tea kettle. Natalya, here's my thing. This is a farting angle, a flatulence angle. There is nothing funny about flatulence. I mean, WWE, this is something that goes like to kindergarten stuff. Farting is funny when you're a little kid, not when you're an adult. I mean, is this what we're trying to cater to? You're giving it to Natalya to be the farting girl, the comedy girl that farts before a promo, during a promo, after a promo? Is that what's going to happen? She's going to now have a patented stink face as her finishing move? And I know some of you are going to sit there and go, oh, you're only saying that because it's Natalya. And it could be the goddamn Bella Twins and it still wouldn't be funny or entertaining. It's stupid. The angle, the whole angle is just absolutely stupid. WWE, just seriously, don't do this. Just fucking stop. This is absolutely fucking disgusting. toilet humor is not funny. It wasn't funny when DX did it. It wasn't funny when Vince did it. It wasn't funny when anyone did it. It's disgusting. Stop it. Just fucking stop. You wonder why people are not taking you seriously, because farting is not funny. It's disgusting. Stop. Fucking stop. Crimson has been awarded the most overrated talent of 2011, trailing behind Mason Ryan, Kevin Nash, Ken Anderson, Jeff Hardy, Triple H, Sin Cara, CM Punk, Matt Morgan, and Randy Orton, says the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Okay, Wrestling Observer. While I can essentially kind of agree with this list, I can also disagree with this list. Kevin Nash didn't really do anything in 2011 but other than have one match. Really can't say you can call him overrated. Triple H has had 3 matches, so maybe you could kind of sort of call him a bit overrated, but at least the guy can still kind of wrestle. At least he does a whole lot better than Hogan and Sting. Jeff Hardy, overrated? More so underwhelming. I think that's a better appropriate title for him. Mason Ryan, overrated? Did anyone ever think that they'd, cheer for Mason Ryan, or he'd be selling t-shirts left and right? Again, Mason Ryan is more underwhelming than overrated. Sin Cara, again, this is WWE's magic going, everything Sin Cara knows how to do in Mexico, don't teach him how to do here, and throw him out there. It's WWE's own fault as to why Sin Cara really can't have a decent match, because he doesn't know A, how to work the American style, and, well, they told him all his Lucha Libre stuff he really can't do. As far as CM Punk and Randy Orton go on this list, no. CM Punk and Randy Orton, as much as I can't stand Randy Orton, I wouldn't call them overrated. They are still good wrestlers, and I use that term very proudly. They are great wrestlers indeed. Their match at WrestleMania 27 was superb. It wasn't as great, but it was superb. It was better than the main event. We'll get to that in a moment. But Randy Orton has been consistent all year. Yeah, he always wins, and yeah, he's always doing the same stuff over and over. But Randy Orton, you take or like him or hate him, he's still consistent. CM Punk has always been consistent from his days in ROH all the way to now. He's never had a bad step. Whereas you would say John Cena is quite overrated. Whereas you could say Sting is overrated. Where you can even say that, yes, you can say this, Mark Henry is very overrated. He's done nothing all year. Sheamus is possibly a little bit overrated. And I neglect to say this, but I have to say it, but even, so believe it or not, Undertaker is a little bit overrated. It's kind of funny that certain people did not make this list, and Wrestling Observer Newsletter focused a lot on Crimson, a guy that TNA is trying to push as the next Goldberg, because they don't like the Crimson character. While I'm not a big fan of Crimson myself, I wouldn't say he's the most overrated. If anything, the most overrated talent that there is in the world of professional wrestling is Michael Tarver is retiring from pro wrestling, who was actually released back in 2011. He's unable to have been booked by TNA or any indie promotions and says that, well, he's kind of tired and done with this crap. Michael Tarver, good riddance. As of February 14th, 2012, Vince Russo and TNA have parted ways. What does this necessarily mean for TNA? Not really a whole lot, because they're still going to go in any kind of direction that Vince Russo had for them since last October. So Vince Russo is gone from TNA. Does this make the product any better? We'll see. The location for WrestleMania 29 has been revealed. And, well, it's kind of streaming the internet as we speak. It actually broke on Wednesday, but believe it or not, it is the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Woo-hoo! So WWE WrestleMania 29 is going to New Jersey, which kind of makes some people rather pissed off they're not going to Texas and that they're not going to Toronto, where a lot of them thought they were going to go. Those of you that can't really put the pieces together, just think Giant Stadium, yeah, it kind of makes sense, blah, blah, blah. They had the whole press conference on Friday, which would be today, and, well, yeah, WWE going to MetLife Stadium for WrestleMania 29, which makes a lot of people wonder, are they going to just cross the street and go to the Garden for WrestleMania 30? Chances are, it's going to happen. The Rock and John Cena having a bitch fight on Twitter. Mainly, if you follow them on Twitter, enjoy, but all you need to know is that The Rock and John Cena are now equally ladies in the role of Twilight the Movie 5. For those actually wondering about, well, Jesse Sorensen, yeah, he's pretty banged up after his match from Against All Odds. Believe it or not, he's going to be out for probably 3 to 4 months. As Kurt Angle mentioned on Twitter, he's at least moving his arms and legs once again. But that's not the part that kind of sort of disgusts me. It's the fact that on WWE, Randy Orton officially has been injured due to the attack from Daniel Bryan and is unable to participate in the Elimination Chamber match. His replacement, by the way, spoiler alert, so cue the sound. His replacement will be Santino Marella. Now, don't expect Santino Marella to do a whole lot in the chamber because, here's another spoiler alert, cue the music. Chances are Christian will show up and go into the chamber, win the title, and we'll have a triple threat match at WrestleMania for Christian, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan for the world title.
Fuck!
These sources are unconfirmed, but rest assured, it's possible that it just could very well happen. It's WWE. So you're playing off the fact that Randy Orton is injured, and the last time Randy Orton was injured, he fell down a flight of stairs and he said he's not going to be there for WrestleMania. He's not going to be here for 3 weeks. He'll be back next week. He'll be at the Rumble. Yeah, guys, stop. Just fucking stop. It's getting old. Orton getting injured every other week. Come on, stop. A good idea to play off of the angle, but at the same time, just stop injuring Orton. He's either injured or he's not. Fans aren't taking this literally. Just give it a rest. And speaking of things that are not being taken literally, well, it depends on how you look at it. Apparently there are 2 people in the doghouse, and, well, I don't think they necessarily belong to being in there. But there is a lot of heated talks right now in the locker room that The Miz and Alberto Del Rio are actually in the doghouse. Mainly The Miz for a couple of reasons. One, many of the officials believe that his performance in the ring and on the microphone has been less than apt. Also, they also feel that since losing the WWE Championship and being placed back into the mid-card, he's not as hungry, he's not as charismatic, he doesn't have the drive, that desire that he used to have. And he walks around being kind of a whiny little bitch and kind of makes the locker room a little bit uneasy. Whereas in the fact of Alberto Del Rio, he tends to walk around the locker room acting like a superstar, acting like he's above everybody else, and he's an athlete, unlike The Miz, who he can't completely stand. He also went ahead on a radio show and said that he hates The Miz, and if he had the opportunity, he'd punch him in the face. Now, there's also some talks about The Miz completely being in the doghouse for screwing up R-Truth's little spot on Raw 2 weeks ago, but again, so many things are falling out on this. The real question is this part of a storyline, or is this all just stuff to mess with the internet fans? Well, here's my final thoughts on this. Okay. While I'm not a big supporter of The Miz, and I never have been, if I was world champion going to WrestleMania, I'm going to main event WrestleMania, and the main focus was The Rock. If I was going to WrestleMania as the world champion, and the main focus was John Cena, if any time the WWE champion or the world champion is an underscore in a match because of a celebrity that only shows up once every 4 years, and a guy that you can see every time on your screen, every time you turn the goddamn thing on, and the WWE champion is not only the underdog, the underscore, and personally if you remove him from the match, the chances are nobody would miss him, there is a problem. Of course, I can understand if this was real and that Miz has got some backstage heat, that I would be a little bit pissed off too. I mean, they gave him kind of a shitty WWE title push. He only beat one person legit, if you can even call it that. He couldn't beat Jerry Lawler. He barely won his matches clean. He had Alex Riley beat the crap out of him only post-WrestleMania. He lost the title belt 1 month after WrestleMania back to John Cena in a cage, and it was kind of they gave him kind of a lackluster tag match with R-Truth, and that went nowhere, and they had him get squashed at Survivor Series to The Rock and John Cena. So unfortunately, The Miz is a victim of circumstance. They kind of put the belt on him and asked him to give ratings and be the most watched star on television, which he did do, whether you like it or not. And now that they took the title off of him and he's a little down in the dumps, mainly because of the way they've been treating him lately, he's kind of being a little bit of a cocky, arrogant prick, and not to pat him on the back, but I think he kind of has every right to be. Now, there are some people saying, you're getting your feathers all ruffled up, it's just an online story, it's just something to make the internet fans talk, and they're going to turn him face eventually. If that is the case, and like I said, if that is the case, why would they have Alberto Del Rio and The Miz, two heels, mind you, two heels, kind of sort of go after each other, whether directly or indirectly, backstage, behind the scenes, on a radio, where not a lot of people can hear about it? Kind of doesn't make any sense. Now, if Alberto Del Rio doesn't really care for The Miz, I can understand that because, let's face it, Alberto Del Rio is an athlete and is a wrestler. By every stretch of the imagination, he is a professional wrestler. He is the name, he is the brand, he is the gimmick. The Miz, on the other hand, is a house-grown talent, which means he knew a little bit about wrestling, they taught him how, and he just kind of ran with the ball, whereas Alberto Del Rio was trained from the ground up. So while I agree with Alberto Del Rio, and not necessarily The Miz, I do agree with The Miz. If he is lashing out, he's lashing out for my reasons, the right reasons. Because they pushed him like absolute shit. And if there's anybody, and I do mean anybody, who wants to try to challenge me on this, I dare you. Good evening, oh uneducated ones. Oh shit, not you again. Don't tell me you're gonna sing and rhyme once again. You asked for a rebuttal, you asked for someone to fight back against you. Well, I have decided that I'm going to. Because the one thing that this show definitely needs is a little bit of class, a little bit of civility, mind you. Why do you have to do this to me? Well, if you allow me to speak my mind for a moment or two, I will state my point. Go ahead, make your point valid. Go ahead, you have the floor. Go ahead, make your point valid. Thank you. Maestro, if you will please cue the music. Thank you. You see, it is quite hysterical if you think about it that there are so many people right now that are backing The Miz. So many people that are standing behind The Miz and saying that WWE is screwing him, that WWE is, in many sense of the word, throwing him away, that he was a underscore at WrestleMania. But here is the thing that not many of you seem to understand. The Miz was a WWE champion. And as your generous host DM mentioned, he was a homegrown talent, which means he was lucky enough to get a WWE title shot and lucky enough to hold the WWE title for as long as he did. And yes, they booked Miz as a cowardly, dastardly heel, but that is what draws ratings. You see, everyone's gonna sit here, the internet wrestling community even, will sit there and they will argue back and forth over what a good heel is and what a good heel isn't, when yet they've never, ever looked at the schematics and the schemings of how professional wrestling works. And yet they've never even stepped foot inside of a wrestling ring or ever wrote down a single real-life wrestling match in their life. So unlike me, who went to Oxford to get his degree in wrestling psychology, people would never understand that, which is why I'm here to educate you. You see, The Miz, whether you like him or you hate him, as I have to agree with DM, he is one of those guys that did have an earmark. He was able to get on the map and he was able to get people talking. But unfortunately for the Alberto Del Rio fans, Alberto Del Rio is simply more of a better athlete, a better star. And even though he may be in the background, walking around and prancing like he's some kind of god, well, to be 100% honest, he kind of is. He was raised from the ground up to be a professional wrestler, whereas The Miz, all of a sudden is now an internet sensation, an internet sweetheart, an internet darling. Their WWE, mind you, is putting this story out mainly to draw sympathy for The Miz. That is all they're doing. That's all they're going to do. The WWE is growing smarter now, knowing that the internet wrestling community is watching their product and making all of their opinions based upon what's going on and writing little matches in their own little fantasy world. In fact, there are some people, and I will not mention any names, but there are some people that are even far enough to have their own e-fed or their own promotion, and they make matches and think that that's how professional wrestling should be, when in truth it's not. You people take wrestling a little too seriously. You should just enjoy the product while you can and cheer for the ones you do and boo the ones you don't. That is what professional wrestling is. If The Miz gets thrown away, to be honest, he's not even that great of a character anyway. He's loud, he's obnoxious, and if that's how he is backstage, he's no more than just this generation's Ric Flair. But yet, of course, no one badmouths Ric Flair, but they will badmouth The Miz. But they'll only badmouth The Miz when the internet wrestling community decides to speak up. And unfortunately for this professor, I will not stand behind the internet wrestling community. For me, The Miz is nothing more than a dry piece of bread that has gone stale and needs to be cut up and spread out as hot of croutons to a sea. That is the only thing The Miz is. And to be 100% honest, they can get rid of him altogether, and I guarantee you within a month or so, just like John Morrison, he will easily be replaced and often forgotten. I am the Professor, saying, until next time, I will educate you then. And unfortunately for you, Professor, your time is up. And that's going to do it all for this week's episode of That Wrestling Show. I thank everyone for staying patient with me and finally getting this episode up. A lot of news that kind of scrambled back and forth. A couple of bits of news that came from last week, finally brought into this episode. But again, thank you for subscribing, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for spreading the word. And also, you can go to the website at thatwrestlingshow.webs.com. Every Monday and all the pay-per-views, there's a live chat room, brand new and improved chat room. Click on there, enjoy, we have a ball in the chat room. I am DM from That Wrestling Show saying, until next time, we'll see you then.